Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into my week 4 presentation for our leadership class. Today we'll be taking a look into a crisis that requires leadership response, as well as the applicable theories that we can apply to leadership at different intervals of their response. In our scenario today, there is a wildfire that has rapidly spread across the Harupa Valley Mountains due to rogue fireworks that were launched during 4th of July celebrations. The fire will spread very quickly due to the recent hot climates, dry vegetation and shrubs, as well as due to high winds. The wind is blowing the flames as well as the smoke southward into Harupa Valley. Harupa Valley hosts a population of roughly 110,000 citizens. Therefore, anywhere between 20,000 to 80,000 people will be impacted by the fires and the smoke, and this is all depending on the severity as well as the mitigation efforts done by leaders in addition to emergency response. Citizens could be impacted by smoke exposure, evacuation orders, utility outages, and or road closures. If roads such as the 60 freeway are closed due to the fire, even more people will be affected from the nearby areas. The immediate emergency phase may last only a couple days, up to several weeks. However, the recovery phase may last several weeks into several years, depending on the amount of damages that were incurred to local neighborhoods. The city must also recover from poor air quality, economic hardships for restorations, and they must redevelop the fire-damaged buildings. The main impacted industry from these fires are going to be fire, police, as well as other hospitals and emergency operation centers, because they're going to face extreme pressures for resource utilization as well as recovery. Additionally, medical facilities were going to be facing extreme resource shortages due to high volumes of injured individuals. Now that the scenario has been established, we're going to be taking a look at the different time intervals during the disaster. We're also going to be looking at which leaders may be emerging and what leadership theories apply at this interval. And we're going to start it off with the 3-second response. At this point, the fire is just starting. So our leader is going to be whichever poor, unfortunate bystander is there at the scene. For our bystander, it's actually critical that they already inherently possess leadership traits to be able to respond accordingly. These traits can include confidence, integrity, intelligence, and determination. For the quickest reaction, the bystander must implement these traits instinctually rather than artificially. This distinction, per Morford, separates a true leader from a follower, as followers may not possess the necessary traits to be able to react accordingly to the situation. To build off the trait theory, the bystander must also be competent. The leader must be wise and courageous, as well as act with integrity. With a higher competency level, it's actually easier to implement these traits. Wei et al. Also contributes high leader competency with high follower obedience. If the leader can rally other people to respond in response to their competence, the more efficient the group becomes in responding to the wildfire. At the 3-hour mark, first responders are now in the thick of the battle with the wildfire. At this point, the fire chief has established themselves as the main leader. Situational leadership is crucial. The fire chief must adapt to the ever-changing environment and situation, as well as react to the competence of those that he's surrounded by. Experienced firefighters or those that are in an already extinguished area may not need heavy supervision, but if the flames suddenly spread quickly into another area, then the fire chief must respond and adapt, sending additional resources over to that specific area where the fires are running rampant. Per Arenas and Williams, the leader must be cognitive of their followers' needs, and they have to adapt their style to whatever the followers require to operate at their full capacity. Some followers in this situation may thrive on direct orders, while others may need reassurance as well as praise to confidently fight the fires. At this time mark, there also may be tough decisions that the leader has to make, requiring the ethical and sound leader decisions. This moral decision making requires integrity, fairness, and accountability. This requires that the intent to do good is there with the leader. The leader has the means to act on this intent, and the overall end or the goal is upright. Per Levine and Vokes, an ethically unsound leader can actually derail the entire mission or goal, and this is why it is necessary to have constant external accountability to ensure that the right leader is set at the very beginning to ensure the mission is achieved. At the 3-day marker, we're now entering into the immediate recovery phase. Now, at this point, there may be structural damages, physical injuries, and displacement of people who lost their homes in the fire. The Emergency Operations Center Director is the one who will be stepping in at this point in order to help with their network leadership style. With all of the varying issues that are occurring simultaneously, the situation becomes multifaceted, requiring different organizations to respond and assist. Cross-organizational collaboration is required, with partnerships across multiple agencies sharing accountability for the situation at hand. Imperial et al. Shares that once these networks are established, leaders can actually distribute the workload to the locals, and this better reduces the issues at hand, and it creates a cultural answer to this issue. The EOC director can then push for a cultural leadership style, transforming the community's values, norms, ethics, as well as their behaviors, in order to create a cultural identity that is resistant to allowing the fires to win. Per Trice and Bayer, this leader must build a charismatic vision depicting victory in order to gain acceptance and approval from the public, instigating a positive change. Lastly, at the 3-month mark, we are in full restoration mode. And this is mainly rebuilding infrastructure. This takes time, so a transformational leader, like the mayor or their city council, must inspire change and motivate their followers to fulfill the set vision, making sure that everybody can persevere as well as prepare for future incidents. This leader, per Bass and Avolio, must intellectually stimulate the public, integrating a creative insight, persistence, intuition, and energy into their followers' mindsets. These leaders must be achievement-oriented, following the path goal theory. This leader creates goals for the organization to strive for while removing any obstacles that are preventing achievement from their fans. Per Griffin, achievement-oriented leaders set challenges, expect followers to perform at their highest levels, as well as expects them to seek improvements along the way while trying to achieve the goal. For your convenience, I've actually listed all of the theories that I've discussed in chapter order, as well as all of the resources that I used for this information. Thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you all have a blessed day.